everyone, welcome back to another Tech Girl Thursdays. Today I am here with Jessica and we are going to be discussing her experiences and hearing from her, and I'm so excited to speak with her. So yeah, thank you so much, Jessica, for joining me today on the Zoom call.
Thank you for having me. Really excited about this.
Yeah, of course, me too. Just to start off, could you just give a short intro about yourself and tell me a little more about your background, interests, hobbies, and such?
Yeah, so I'm Jessica. I work as a one-woman data analytics and data science team at a legal tech startup called Ironclad, based in San Francisco, where I've been working there for a little bit over a year, maybe 15 months. Prior to joining Ironclad in this very interesting, unique role, I graduated from UC Berkeley in 2019, where I studied data science and economics. Yeah, and outside of my day-to-day life in my job, I really like to hang out in parks around San Francisco with my friends and read. So, yeah.
Yay, and go Bears.
Yeah, go Bears.
So, getting more into your background, so how and when did you get into the tech field?
Yeah, it's a good question. Being from the Bay Area, I always knew that tech was something that powered Silicon Valley. I just didn't really, I felt kind of removed from it growing up. And in my last 2 years of high school, there was really a big push for women in technology and especially in computer science. So programs like Girls Who Code, She++ were popping up in high school, videography classes, whatever. So I got into tech in my senior year of high school, where I took my first AP computer science class, learned how to code a little bit, and yeah, I went from there and studied computer science in the beginning of my Berkeley career, and then switched to data science because I found that more interesting. But yeah, it's been a really fun ride to be a woman in tech.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more women in tech organizations and initiatives popping up, which has been really cool to see, kind of very empowering and heartwarming as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a really welcoming space. I feel like I haven't had um, too many issues with being a woman in tech when I was starting out. I just have to dive in.
Yeah. So in the past, you mentioned to me that you've done some work related to mobile development and also tech consulting. So I'm curious how those experiences were, and like after those experiences, what made you want to pursue data and data analytics?
So I feel like those two experiences really still informed what I do today. Mobile development being something technical, and you see the whole like life cycle of building a product, launching it, shipping it, designing it. And consulting was kind of like recommending business insights to executives, to clients. And I feel like analytics, data science allows me to do both of those passions of mine, without explicitly focusing on one over the other. So I feel like data analytics, you start with a bunch of data. It's a technical kind of hurdle. You write code to clean the data, to munge the data, to explore the data, to make models off the data. And then you take that consulting side, where you have the data, you've done all of your product lifecycle on it, similar to mobile development, and you kind of have to recommend, okay, like what is the data saying? What is the story I can tell to executives, to the product team that I work for, to different orgs around your company? So definitely love that melding of the two different styles of work within data analytics.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people don't know about data analytics too. Like maybe you've seen this, but at least from what I've seen, a lot of people think it's just very technical. Like you're just maybe coding, and then like there's this whole like data science life cycle, and from like start to finish, like there's so many different things that you're doing along it, but a lot of people don't know that. So
Yeah.
um,
The
yeah,
most
just like
important part is the data storytelling, actually. People over index on the technical capabilities involved with data analytics and data science, but ultimately your analysis is only as good as how you communicate it to the people that are interested and who are your stakeholders. So definitely over index on storytelling and seeing what's the most important to your audience.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Because if you can't tell your analysis to anyone, then like, did you really do the analysis?
exactly.
Yeah. So you also mentioned that you're a one woman team at Ironclad. So how is that going? And um, I can imagine it's probably a lot of work since it's like a one person team. So I guess like what are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, happy to answer that. It's been really fun. Ironclad kind of took a bet on me being their first data analyst, and we at first we didn't really know kind of where my place would be. Would I be a data analyst embedded on one of the product teams? That's how I initially started. And then the data need grew more and more as I progressed month over month in my role after I graduated. That I eventually just became data analyst, data science go-to person to the entire company. So it's definitely transformed. Startups might think that it's risky, and it could be, but I think this bet paid off, and Ironclad has grown to be so much more data driven, so much more data enabled with the work that I've been able to output. Overall, it is work, but it is a good amount of work, but it's not anything that drives too much into my like like crazy working hours or personal life. Like I have really good managers, people who I work with really care about kind of like my stability and my personal kind of like how I'm doing. So it doesn't feel like it's ever too much of a burden. I genuinely love the work I'm doing, and um, it makes me impassioned to keep working on, having a lot of impact, and the tiny work that you might be doing now can like impact a lot of product folks, customer success folks, make their lives easier, make customers happy. So it's really fun. And also being a one woman team has allowed me to be really nimble, and like I can work with people all across our company. Our company's around 160 folks, so split up into 5 or 6 different departments across, product, marketing, customer success, sales, legal, finance. Like there's just a lot. So I'm learning a lot about how to be a general business uh, leader, and I get to think about metrics that relate to all of these functions on a high level. So if I want to be potentially like a founding team member of another startup, like I know what metrics and what stuff to think about that are most important in driving success.
That sounds like such a unique experience too. And like you're like the data person at a company, and that's like I feel like that's something that a lot of people can't say.
Yeah, it's
So
definitely a really great opportunity I've been afforded, and I thank my lucky stars for being taken on as this role.
and even just getting to work on like all with all the different like teams and everything, that's so cool too, and really shows like the interdisciplinary nature of data science as well. So I thought
Totally.
that was really interesting. Yeah. I guess on a day-to-day basis, like what would you say you're like talking with people more? Or are you coding more? Like what type of work are you doing?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty split. Half of my work has to do with, dashboarding, making dashboards not only for our internal stakeholders like the product team or the customer success team, and writing SQL code to do that, and then visualize and design a really beautiful, easy to use dashboard. And the other half is split, potentially working on bigger, more ambiguous projects, like answering very strategic questions for the business. And that involves more of the data science side, where I would I would gather data to, create a really good data frame, and then I'd, you know, impact some models and work some models and like regression, decision trees to predict a strategic question like churn, or renewal prediction, or what can we do now to better activate customers. And so very open-ended questions that involve more advanced data methodologies. So
What's like your favorite part about being in data analytics, and then the hardest part?
I think the favorite and the hardest part kind of coincide. My favorite part is just like there's a really exciting business question to answer, and you don't really have much. It's like an empty canvas. You don't know, you have this idea in your head of what you want to paint, and it's really exciting, but you have like your paintbrushes, your colors, you have everything, all the materials ready, but you just have to like start painting. So that's the most exciting thing. It's like I have a very kind of open-ended business question, and I have to like search hard in the data like for the nuggets of wisdom that I might discover. And it's an iterative process where, you know, the data has some secrets and I need to, you know, extract those secrets from there. And just the discovery process of being on that hunt for those like golden nuggets of insight are really exciting. And by the end, if you have like a really good analysis, you show your painting off to the world and your stakeholders. And at Ironclad, we do show and tells, or I even go to the executive meetings and present in front of all the executives. But yeah, it's just, I love the open-endedness nature of data, and it is challenging. That's the other facet of it. Having such open-ended questions and not a lot of guidance is hard. So I have to definitely reach out to a lot of people, both within Ironclad, and ask them like, you know, what do you want? Like, what does this data mean? More like clarification questions. And then because I'm a one woman team, I don't have kind of like a data manager. I even reach out to other women in data and ask them, like, you know, have you worked with this kind of question before? What are your methodologies? And I reached out to somebody on a recent project who worked at another startup, and she told me, like, hey, we use a decision tree for this, and maybe a logistic regression would be interesting for another subset of problems, but I would use a decision tree. So, you know, like taking the initiative to kind of, you know, get clarification and best practices is also challenging, but it pays off in the end.
The women in data communities and just like being able to reach out to people to ask like clarification questions or get advice and stuff. That's just so cool. Like how people are so like open and willing to help out and just like because I mean I can imagine it is hard being like a one person team um, at a company and not having anyone who has maybe gone through the same experience. So being able to like reach out to others and kind of get data related support as well is
Definitely.
great.
Yeah, I definitely hope I can give back in the same way 5 to 10 years into my future. At this point, I still feel like such a newbie, that I mean, I could help offer help to others, but not in the same way that, you know, people who are much more senior than I. And you'll find this in the community that you reach out to, with it, whether it's LinkedIn or other data science Slack groups. People are oftentimes more than willing to help. So honestly, my biggest recommendation to anyone who is kind of questioning their data methodologies or data career paths is to reach out. Reach out to LinkedIn, like have a very um, genuine message, and, you know, schedule that time. People will most likely be willing to help. I do this at least every couple weeks with people in the data community, so go for it.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like reaching out more. And I've also found that like a lot of people are just automatically like willing to help, like if you as long as you write a good message, I think.
Not a copy paste message. Always personalize, personalize, personalize those
Yeah.
messages.
So you mentioned like a lot of different data tools that you use and a lot of different data methodologies. Did you mostly learn them on the job, or were there like classes you took at Berkeley that helped out with that, or
Mhm.
like previous work experiences?
Both. So I think Berkeley really helped me understand what's out there in open source Python, and R. And also, I learned a bit of SQL in my freshman year intro to CS class, but it was kind of not the day-to-day SQL that you would use for analytics. It used abstract concepts like recursive SQL and just like stuff that you'd put on a test but wouldn't use in real life. So I definitely felt when I started my job, I relearned SQL and completely think that it's totally attainable to pick it up on the job, and you can refresh your SQL memory, and fill in those gaps by looking at SQL tutorials from Mode Analytics. That's a really good one, or SQLzoo.net. Um, as opposed with Python, I wouldn't say I'm a like fluent Python programmer, but I do understand. Like I use Python almost always in my data science classes, or R, and I would just look up a lot of syntax. If I had those knowledge gaps, I would look up syntax or tutorials, and Stack Overflow is your best friend. So everything's out there, and I wouldn't be too intimidated after you know the basics of programming. because, I can't for the life of me remember all the different syntax differences between each of those languages, but I can for sure look it up in a couple minutes online and figure it out. So there's a lot of resources out there. Python being the most popular, but SQL and R are definitely out there as well.
And you kind of answered my next question, but I was going to ask like if you have any specific resources. So for SQL, you mentioned SQL Zoo and Mode Analytics. Do you have any other resources that you recommend?
Yeah, I think Kaggle is helpful. Um, I remember when I was first looking into coding on my own, I saw Kaggle and Towards Data Science, and I forgot one more, Data Camp. They all have really good tutorials, and you can see other people's code and see what they write in each of the languages that you want to learn. So those are really helpful. There's a bunch of data analytics newsletters. I can think about each one of those more as this goes on if anything comes up to me. But Cassie Kozyrkov's analytics newsletter, I forget what it's called, but it's something like decision science. But Cassie Kozyrkov, she's, I think, the head of decision science at Google. So that's a really helpful blog. And yeah, I think those are good ones to start with right now.
Being in a tech role and like working in tech, how has your experience been like as a woman in tech?
Yeah, I mostly like 99% positive. Um, I feel very respected, and I think in the last 5 years, there's been a really big inclusivity movement for women in tech, and I feel like being in the Bay Area, it is fairly like inclusive, and um, the folks I work with are well aware of, you know, how it is hard to be the only woman in the room. So I feel like they're definitely encouraging and take my words with stride. My coworkers will really respect kind of the work I'm doing, the time I need to take to do this. I won't really get interrupted or doubted that much. Any feedback that I get you know, any feedback that I get is constructive and not malicious. Um, I think when I was first starting out at Berkeley in the computer science classes, maybe there was one instance where I was doubted by some kid. Like literally, we were just 18 years old. So I'm hoping those people have grown up and kind of respect women in tech. But honestly, it's been really phenomenal. I feel great about it.
Yay, that's so good to hear, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's just you need to have the confidence in yourself and not doubt yourself as much because a mediocre guy in the same position probably wouldn't doubt themselves. So I think women tend to be really hard on themselves, and I've been there. But look at all of your accomplishments and really just gloat about yourself. You should really be proud of all of like the barriers you're, you know, uh, knocking down and paving the way for more women to see themselves in you as a role model. So keep going.
Snaps. Snaps to that. It seems like your company's doing a lot of good things for women in tech. What things are your company doing that maybe other companies could also implement? Like, so others have like a similar experience as yours, like a really nice, like positive experience working in tech.
I think early on, my company, and I think the first engineering hire was a woman. Um, I think the gender balance when I joined was something like, I feel like it was 40% female on the engineering product and design team. So definitely above average, not quite 50-50, of course, but definitely I felt like I saw a lot of women in the room during our product all hands meetings at Ironclad in general. When I joined, the board seats were pretty diverse on the exec table. There were like women, people in the LGBTQ community, um, Asian, white, black, like Latino, Latinx. So there was definitely like a lot of good representation that made me feel like, okay, Ironclad really cares about diversity and inclusion. Um, we also, after the whole George Floyd stuff in May/June, Ironclad implemented kind of an anti-racism discussion club where my friend Alice, she leads these initiatives where we all meet in breakout circles to talk about implicit bias, explicit bias, racism, how we've dealt with potential racism and biases in our lives. And this applies not just to race, but gender, sexual orientation, um, lived experiences. Yeah, so I think that was really great, and that showed that Ironclad cares. And Ironclad also does pro bono events for children with uh, parents that are incarcerated, and also does legal work for marginalized communities pro bono. So definitely feel like Ironclad's setting a good example. Not just using mouthpiece, not just mouth work. We're doing the actions.
I love the kind of like the roundtable discussions that you mentioned. Like, I feel like a lot of companies, like, they're aware of it, but people don't talk about a lot of these issues. And just having an open conversation, it's like hard, but it's so necessary in
Yeah,
these
it's so
environments.
important to normalize these conversations. We each have different experiences and opinions, and I think it's just important to have a safe platform to share your experiences and thoughts, but also assume good intent of people that are in the group. Like we're all learning. We may not say the right things, but it's good to assume that we mean well.
So you started a Slack community called Data Angels, which I'm a part of, and I've been loving it so far. And so essentially with the community, so women interested in data can join it and share resources and advice, meet each other, network. So it's been super great, a super great experience for me so far. But I want to hear from your perspective, like why did you want to start it? How has your experience been with it so far?
So yeah, I started Data Angels because, being a one woman data analytics team, I feel like that's it's hard to build a community of data folks. I didn't see that many women in data that I had in my close circle graduating from Berkeley. Um, and I found myself, reaching out to women in data or just product analytics folks, stuff like that, um, pretty much monthly since I started Ironclad. And I felt like I wanted a community that was all in one space, and for other women who are up and coming in their data careers to also learn from these people and kind of like have a shared ground to share resources, learn new tools, share opportunities with jobs, and just have like a general place to vent. So I started Data Angels for that reason, and couldn't have been at a better time. We have around 250 members and from all over the world. But that's the most surprising thing. Like, I launched this on Twitter and maybe LinkedIn, and I thought, okay, maybe my circle of friends from Berkeley and in the SF Bay area might join. But then it extended to people in London, Australia, South Africa, China, India, and it's been awesome. Like, I hope it's been interactive and fun for them as well. And to your next question, like what am I learning from it and what my experiences? It's been good. Like I've never run a Slack community, and having a full-time job is, it gets to, you get tired at the end of the day, and you kind of have to like still show up for Data Angels and make time, to write newsletters or help people in their comment threads, or work on a side project with somebody that wants to work on a side project together. And um, it's been good. It's been a balancing act for sure. But my greatest, I guess, driver is to see women in data succeed and give them the tools to kind of set themselves up for success. So, yeah.
So it's grown quite a bit since you started it a few months ago. So where do you hope to see it go in the future?
Yeah, I hope to potentially have multiple people kind of running it, kind of like a exec board maybe if it gets not manageable with just me running it. And it is kind of leaning towards that direction because I do find it somewhat hard to balance all the different like programming that we have. So some people have been stepping up to lead, socials and help with our social media also, and our newsletters. So there's been little inchings towards that. But I really hope to expand the community. Right now, it's around 250 members, and I hope we can get it to 1,000 in a year. Who knows? Just to have a more active Slack channel, more people having different opinions and sharing, and just so that there can be a constant flow of good resources is my goal.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I feel like there's tons of women out there who are in data fields, and I feel like they'd be so down. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see everyone joining.
What would be a really good, I guess, payoff from this? I would love to see somebody in the group get their next job opportunity from data angels, and like, or lean on one of the members to like learn a new programming language or something like impactful that is directly attributed to data angels. So that would make my heart very warm.
So we discussed data angel goals, but I guess you in general, like what are your goals for the future in terms of life in general or your career?
That's a good question. I'm still figuring it out, but I think generally I think I want to still stay in data analytics and data science. Maybe work myself up to senior data analytics or data science within the next couple years, and then potentially switch to a management role or potentially pivot to product management because I do love, you know, the product open-ended questions and product direction questions that I get to work on in my current role. And I think analytics is definitely a Swiss Army knife, and you can use data to be a really good product manager if you're analytically well versed. So yeah, I think that's where I might go. And then long-term future, maybe founding a company or being a chief data officer well into my career, but who knows? Data is so multifaceted, so it can really go anyway. Oftentimes, I ask people older than me, in the data field, that same question, and like what career advice? How did you get to where you are in your career? Where do you want to go next? And oftentimes they say, life just happens, and you kind of opportunities fall into your lap when you don't even plan on things kind of falling into your lap, and you kind of take those opportunities. So, yeah, stay tuned. Stay open minded and stay tuned.
Yes, based on everything that all of your experiences that you've been through and everything you've learned so far, what advice would you give to people who are maybe interested in tech and data but aren't sure? Or, yeah, I guess just like general advice.
Yeah, I would just say go for it and try it. There's really no harm in learning, data and technical skills involved with that. It does involve a lot of self discipline, and there will be some hurdles. I mean, there's hurdles in anything when you learn something new. But I would just say go for it and seek out the resources you need. There will be people along to help in your journey, and definitely utilize your network of helpful friends, family, colleagues. So do it.
Yay, go for it. Motto of today.
Yeah. Show them who's boss. Like show everyone. That's like definitely my mantra.
Like, what's your favorite quote and who's your favorite role model?
A quote I use a lot is the Russian phrase, since I am Russian. It's this phrase we say "потихонечку," which means roughly translates to like little by little. And like always, you have to, whenever you're working on any project or hard challenge in your life, or I like, if you're, like climbing a hard mountain, for example, you have to like you have to like little by little chip away at that problem and not think of the challenge you're facing as this giant mountain to climb, but it's really a bunch of little steps that lead to kind of your success and getting to that top of that metaphorical mountain. So definitely like little by little, it's all in the details of whatever journey you're on. Just go little by little and chip away at these type of challenges in your life, and um, set small goals for yourself instead of overwhelming yourself with giant goals. Like when you're starting college, for example, like you probably are stressed about declaring a major and getting a really good job at the end of your 4 years, but those are like 4 long years. You have to like think of even semester by semester and kind of figure out your path along there. or for your career after college. Like you're gonna have probably 40 years of career in your lifetime, maybe more, depending on how long you want to go for. And don't be stressed out about the huge long term because stuff is gonna change in the short term, and you're gonna have to be adaptable. So definitely keep going on that.
Is there like a way you kind of use that phrase in like your day-to-day life specifically?
Yeah, I think it relates most to me in terms of time management. If I have a really big project that I want to work on and it's overwhelming, I break out my day and my calendar as to like, what time I want to schedule to this project, like who I want to reach out to. I like journal a bunch just to make sure I'm like getting to where I want to be. But also in my daily life, it's like if I'm not getting and hitting all of those goals, that's why they're goals. Like you're not meant to hit all of them. Just like being kind with myself and saying, okay, like I'm like doing this the best I can. I'm so little by little. Eventually, I'll get it done.
I think that's such a like an important reminder for everyone. Just it's so easy to look at the big goal and then like get demotivated by it, but like working with those little goals to like slowly like work your way up is like
Yeah,
that's so important.
yeah. And then as far as your second question, the role model part, I think it couldn't be a more apt time to have Kamala Harris as your role model. I think she's breaking so many of the glass ceilings here in terms of being like the second highest elected official of the free world, being the first woman of color, being the first woman child of immigrants, being just like the first woman VP. Like it's been amazing, and that translates not only to elected official offices, but also in corporate life, in personal life. So just being unafraid and classy while doing it is really inspiring, and I hope to also kind of take note from Kamala.
Yeah, she broke so many glass ceilings
Yeah.
just like literally in the past year. It's amazing.
And in so many ways, we can tell the children growing up now, like, hey, look, there's a VP in the second highest elected official office in America. Like, you can, if you see it, you can be it. That kind of translates as well to being a woman in tech and just encourage, like, taking a brave step forward and showing women younger than us that you can do it. We can achieve a lot and rise throughout our careers and succeed. So kind of I feel like there is a lot of responsibility for us too to also pave the way for every generation after us. So and we are also standing on the shoulders of giants as well. Like I'm not discounting the people before us. Yeah, so really cool.
Yeah.
But if you have any questions, feel free to message me on LinkedIn or anyone who's watching on Twitter or LinkedIn. Yeah, or if you want to join the Data Angels Slack channel, feel free to DM me. I'm very much well open to that and want to encourage as many women as possible to get into tech and data as well. So happy to encourage all messaging.
I'll make sure to put all of Jessica's links in the description below. But yeah, thank you so much, Jessica, for joining me on this Zoom call today and sharing all about your experiences and giving some advice as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all next week with another Tech Girl Thursdays episode. Bye.